we are here with Allison Hong Merrill, who I have known virtually um, through exchanges and comments and phone calls. And I am now seeing for the first time on screen. So excited. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much for having me, Lori and Scott.
Yes, we are so
Hi,
happy to
Allison.
have you. And so before we start the interview, I have a little icebreaker question for you.
Okay.
Tell me, when you were growing up in Taiwan, what was your favorite American TV show?
Okay. So I grew up watching American TV shows in the 80s. At the time, there was a TV show called The Growing Pains.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kirk Cameron. It was okay, Kirk Cameron. I watched the show because of him. Also,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah, he was a heartthrob. He was on a lot of girls' walls, his poster,
Yeah.
you know?
Not on my
He
wall.
still looks great now, Like
He
till this day.
does. He does look great now. And so did you learn some English through the shows or no?
I learned hi, how to greet people, hi,
Yeah.
and bye. It's very basic, practical,
Right.
one
Yeah.
syllable words.
Yes.
Honey,
Yes.
Allison's kind of a comedian. She has really
I
good
think
timing.
so. She's got
I like
jokes.
it.
Yeah, she does.
I'm telling the truth, guys.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. You have
Um,
comedic
well,
timing.
You're right. Thank you for that. I am Laura Cathcart Robbins, and this is the only one in the room. But I am never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host Scott Slaughter, who's actually downstairs, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hey, honey. So today we are talking to Allison Hong Merrill. Like I said, Allison is a Taiwanese immigrant in Utah. She holds an MFA from Vermont College of Fine Arts. That's two things you have in common with Scott, and we'll tell you why
two
Vermont
locators.
is one of. Yeah, two locators. Her work has won both national and international awards. Her memoir, 99 Fire Hoops, which I'm going to hold up right now so you can see it. Beautiful. Her memoir, 99 Fire Hoops, is available on. It's available now. If you're listening after September 21st, so the book is out. You can visit her at AllisonHongMerrill.com. That's ALISONHONGMERRILL, where you can sign up for a monthly email. So welcome again, Allison. We're happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Laura, and thank you so much, Scott. So you said earlier that we have two locators.
Yes.
You also
So
live in
Utah, which is one of the ones you know, because Scott spent a lot of time in Utah.
Right.
And then you can tell her the Vermont one, hon.
And then my daughters both moved to Burlington, Vermont about 10 years. When I moved to LA, and we've been a transcontinental family since then, but I go back and forth to Stowe, and their origins are there. So it's kind of a funny little coincidence, I think.
Yeah. Did you go in person or did you go online?
I have to. So it's a low residency program. So I did have to travel to Vermont for the residency
Okay.
for 2 years.
Nice. So
Did
you
you
got
like
to know
Vermont?
it then.
Yes, it's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's very hard to fly out of Burlington back to Utah.
Ooh, girl. Yes.
I know. You heard me talk about that for years, huh, honey?
Well,
hard.
and yeah, and then anyway, it's a lovely little airport. I don't want to throw any shade on Burlington.
I'll just tell a quick story. It was kind of one of those things where you would show up for your flight at like 7:30 at night, and they'd be like, "Well, everybody's gone.
Right.
They're not taking. No more flights are out." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it was like
That's
like
why
wings,
Scott is telling the truth.
right? You know, Allison.
It's true. Allison, tell me, how do you identify?
I go by the pronoun she, her. I'm a mother, a wife. Laura, I want to say I'm a daughter. Yes, I'm a daughter, but my father disowned me. But I'm still a daughter of God. How's that?
Yeah. Yes. Lovely. Thank you for that.
Of course.
So I want to just talk a little bit about how you and I connected, because I don't quite remember. How was it that we first, because because I remember we were messaging back and forth, and I was following your posts about your book, which I was really excited about. But did you find me first, or did I find you? I can't remember.
I have been secretly admiring you for a real long time. I'm your fan because I first heard about you because you were on the Moth,
yes,
like the storytelling. What is it? The
Moth. Yeah.
And you told this beautiful, I'm gonna cry. The story about you. You went to the hospital to visit Scott's father.
Yes, that's right.
That one got me. I was sobbing. And you were such a wonderful performer too. I mean, you had a beautiful story, but you had the gift of performing it. And that one episode of you telling the story stayed with me. And then you also taught a class at
the writing pad. Yeah.
You taught an essay writing class, and I took that class, and I thought, oh, I love this woman. I love her in so many ways, healthy ways. Okay,
that's so great.
Yeah, and so I friended you on Facebook, and then we just started.
That's how we. Well, so from my memory, it was just like, oh, here's this incredible woman who has a memoir coming out, and it's getting accolades and is doing everything. Everybody's so jealous, right? Because you're on the path that everybody wants to be on as a writer.
Oh, that's your story, Laura.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk more about that too. But thank you for helping me with that, because I want it sometimes. Someone's just in your life, and I just couldn't remember how it was that we connected, but I'm so glad that we did. I'm so glad that you took the class, and that we were able to connect that way, because your book is brilliant. Scott's seen me reading it over the last week or two, and I always read passages out loud to him.
Allison, do you want to know a little secret about her Moth performance?
What is it?
She rehearsed about 1,000 times.
Oh my God!
Really?
Yeah.
That was her secret. It was so good. I was exhausted by it, but I was so impressed by it.
He would walk into the room, and I'd be rehearsing, and he'd walk right back out.
Well, she kept saying, "Come in, listen." I'd be like, "Again?" But she nailed it. I agree with you. She's a really talented performer.
She really is. And oh my gosh, that explains so much, because I just feel like, oh my gosh, Laura, how do you tell the story like you have the whole, like every single word memorized? And
yeah.
And
it's practice. Of course,
that explains it, because you practice so many times.
Yeah. Every time I speak, I practice. I just do. It's just part of who I am.
Yep, it is.
Professionalism.
Yeah. Thank you. So I want to get into your story. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time in your childhood, but I think it's really important to talk about how you grew up. Can you just, because I know it wasn't safe, your childhood. It was not a safe place. Your home wasn't a safe place. Can you tell me about that?
So, and thank you so much for the question, first of all. And as a child, I did not know I was in an unsafe family environment. I thought everybody lived like that, So my parents were not home. When they should be home, they were not home. So when I was about 4 years old, I thought I had a job, and nobody told me I had a job. I thought I had this responsibility of raising my younger sister. She was 2. And I thought my job was to make sure she will not cry, because she cried all the time. No adults were home with us, right? And so she, of course, a 2-year-old would know, well, where do I find food when I'm hungry? What do I do? And so she would cry all the time, and I would assume that responsibility of raising her. And because I was young myself, and I didn't know how to raise her, so I had questions. So I guess what I really want to say is, growing up that way provided an opportunity for me to start thinking deeply very early on. And so I thought about life and death when I was 4. And I started to not be able to sleep at night around the same time, meaning I was insomnia. I couldn't sleep, because I kept wondering what will happen. What will happen tomorrow? Would I have to go find food for my sister? And when you were 4 and you were thinking about real life questions, you really want answers because children want to feel secure, right? And children want to feel anchored in a very solid family environment, and that wasn't available to me. So I had to create that environment for myself and my sister. And that's why I had all these questions about life and death and what happens after we all die, that kind of things at a very young age. And
can you talk about some of the, because I know that there was abuse in your home, not just of you, not just that you were abused and your sister was abused, but your parents like abused each other as well, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So I think part of the problem was the culture, the culture that that favor male over female. So men, they are the patriarchs, right? Men are the patriarchs in the home, or they're the patriarch in the clan, or in the family, in the tribe. And so women were conditioned to submit to men's will and to obey men and to please them, to satisfy them. And so, but I don't think it's natural. That's imbalance. There's an imbalance in nature if women were required to play that kind of role. And my mother, she never said it, but I feel like she was unhappy with that system or the cultural condition. And so she fought against that system in her own way. Meaning my father, he was an alcoholic and he would get drunk, right? And whenever he was drunk, he became very violent and he would beat her, physically abuse her. But it didn't stop there. He would emotionally abuse us too. He would tell us we were garbage and he didn't want us. He hated daughters, right? So emotionally he was abusing us because he was under the influence, right? And we were kids. We didn't fight back, but my mother would fight back. And so they would get into physical fight. And then the kitchen knife, the butcher's knife will come out, right? And then,
who had the knife? Who had the knife?
My dad will have the knife. My mother will have furniture. Like she will pick up chairs and then would just chuck chairs over at my dad. And so we'll see furniture flying across the room. And then the room was ruined, right? And then my mother would leave. At the end of the fight, she would leave and she would be gone for days and weeks. And but my dad had to go to work during the day, and that's when I figured out I had to raise my sister because nobody was home. Right. And so that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. And I thought everybody lived like that, okay? And so I didn't feel too bad about myself. I was just confused. And I had questions. And I thought, oh man, everybody's unhappy. This is a very difficult life.
Right. So like life is miserable, right? Yeah. Like that's what you're thinking, and everybody's going through the same misery. And in your home, there was drinking, destructive drinking, right? Yeah. And then there was an absence because of that destructive drinking, which led to the violence, which led to your mother's absence.
Right.
And which led to you being the sole caregiver for your younger sister when you were a baby. Like that's for me, 4 is a baby. Like I know they're not babes in arms, but that's a baby right there. I'm taking care of another baby, right? So was school a haven for you? Was school a safe place?
School, yes. I enjoy school because Laura, I don't want to sound like I'm bragging, but I did really well in school. And because you did well in school, that in itself is a form of reward, because you go to school and you always get A's, right? And you always get 100% on tests. And you go, oh, I'm really good at this. This is where I feel good about myself, because I don't feel good about myself at home. My own father told me he hated me, but in school, my teacher told me I was so smart, right? And my teacher said, oh, you're such a, So I got all the praise in school and I enjoy going. So yes, it's a very safe place for me. right?
Yeah.
I enjoy going, and then you just keep going, and you just keep working harder because you keep wanting that recognition.
Yes. Yes. And so then as you grew up, your mother left the house permanently. Is that correct?
You know, she would leave, right? And she will come back. And then she will leave, she will come back. So she lived, at the time, she lived with a packed suitcase. She was always ready to leave again.
Yeah.
And then my father forced her to sign divorce papers when I was 13. Yeah, wait. 14. I was 14.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right. Yeah.
14.
From what
And
I
so,
remember.
yeah. And so she moved out. And see, and that's when I first came to America, I was very shocked to find that when a couple divorced, the children stay with the mother. Like most of the time, the children stay with the mother. But that wasn't the case back in Taiwan, back home, because I stay with, you know, all of us stay with my father. And so when my father remarried, the stepmother moved in, we were there to be abused again.
Right.
But I heard that, you know, my childhood friends whose parents also divorced, they all stay with their fathers too.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
That's really interesting. And then
to find the other way.
Part of their agreement was that your mother she gave up all of her rights to you, right?
Right.
Like she had no visitation. She couldn't take you on weekends. She wasn't even allowed contact with you. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Wow. Yeah, I was really shocked to read that. I was like, that's nothing I've ever seen before. And I can't imagine how that must have been for you. I know that she would show up sometimes at your school.
Yeah.
And kind of shove things like, you know, to you to like gifts, right?
Yeah.
Take this. And that must have just been so hard, you know, for her and for you at that time.
Yeah.
So,
you know,
yeah, go ahead.
I was very selfish, right? Growing up, I always, because I had to learn to take care of myself from a very young age. So I was always thinking about myself. What's for me? What's in for me? And I could see, when I was growing up, I could see my mother was suffering or she was unhappy, but I didn't much care about her suffering because I have my own suffering I had to take care of, you know? Yeah. And so she will come to school after she and my father divorced. She will come to school to try to pry information about my dad and my stepmother, right?
Yes.
She will bribe me. And at the time I thought, okay, I want the clothes she bought for me. I want the food she was feeding me. I want everything. Mimi, give me this. Give me everything you could give me. And I didn't care that the information she asked for would hurt her, you know, because I feel like, oh, she was still in love with my father. She still wanted to know how he was doing. Maybe in a way she still wanted to care for, you know, take care of him, or I don't know why she would at that point, but she will keep coming back to learn more about my father's life, right? And I didn't know that if I would continue to provide the information she wanted to know, it will actually hurt her. Because by that time, my dad was already remarried. He had a new wife. And you know, when you have a new wife, you start a new intimate relationship with somebody else. And so when I told my mother all this information, I didn't think, oh, this will hurt her. She might get jealous. She might, you know, I didn't think that, because I was thinking, if I would just tell her everything she wants to know, and then I get fed, I get new clothes. And so I was always in the me mentality. Now I think about it, I'm like, why would I do that to her? That's like killing her. Yeah.
But you were also, you were still a kid and you were surviving.
Right.
And you know what we didn't talk about, and we're going to actually move on to the next section, but.
Well, I was going to say, I think what's even more amazing is that you aren't like that now.
Yeah.
That you didn't learn how to be that way, that you stopped that, you know, like you were about to learn it from her.
Right,
so
right.
That was.
Yeah. We all learn.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry, honey.
It's all right. Hold on one second. Oh, sorry. What we didn't talk about was that you had an abusive stepmother as well.
Yes.
And she was very abusive. So what I want to kind of tie that into is why the missionaries who arrived at your house were so attractive to you, was because now your mother's out of the home, but then here comes this other woman who is like classic evil stepmother with her own daughter, who
Right.
she puts over you, puts her needs over yours, feeds her, feeds your dad, feeds herself, doesn't feed you and your sister,
Right.
leaves you guys literally outside, in the hallways, right, to fend for yourselves. So
Yes.
tell us why the missionaries were so attractive to you at that point, and then what that was like, learning more about their culture.
That's a great question. So, have you ever had this experience, Laura and Scott? Have you ever met somebody who has that kind of influence with him, that wherever he goes, people around him feel um, loved
Mm.
or important?
Mm-hmm.
So the missionaries, they were strangers. We didn't know them. They just came. They came to our family home. And the moment they stepped into our home, I could feel something different about these people. Like they had this influence with them, and they changed the feeling in the room. We sat down with them, and nobody was yelling at anybody. Nobody was angry at any. They changed the setting, they changed the feeling, and I thought I never felt this peace before in this room, in my own living room. I never felt that way. And then it wasn't because they were foreigners and we were curious about them and we wanted them to come back and teach us more about all these strange Christian teachings. No, that's another story. But it's just the fact that these people have that influence with them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
when they left, when the visit was over and they left, that influence was gone, left
Right.
with them.
So
And
it left like a
I thought,
void, right?
yes. And then
Yeah.
I started to want to have them come back again. And so they will come weekly. They will come once a week, and we will always make appointments with them, right? And so every time by the end of the visit, they will make an appointment for next week. And I
Mm-hmm.
would get excited the entire week, looking forward to the next visit. And it became very difficult to sit still in class during the day, knowing, oh, tonight the missionaries are coming. And I get
Yeah.
to feel that again, And so that was something I had never experienced before the missionaries came.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when my father told them not to come anymore, I was crushed. I
Yeah.
was sad.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, I think it's really interesting that they provided this sense of not just safety, but this kind of feeling of hope for you, right?
Yes, yes,
Like this is possible too, because you
yes,
had known this life of misery, and then and these were Americans, is that correct?
yes,
Americans, members of the Church of Latter-day Saints, or what we call the Mormon Church,
yes,
who had gone on their missions to Taiwan
yes,
to bring you into the church, right? People
yes,
like you.
yes,
So they spoke your language,
yes.
kind of.
Well, Chinese is so hard to learn. I
Yeah,
can say
yeah,
that because I had to learn it too. I wasn't born just speaking already. I had to learn. That's a very hard language to learn. And
yeah.
so these missionaries, they were assigned to serve in different areas all over the
Right.
world. And if they were assigned to a foreign language speaking mission, they would go to a place called the Missionary Training Center to learn the language for 2 months,
Okay.
to learn basic conversation
Right.
skills,
That's
right?
not a long time
It's
to
not a long
prepare.
time. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, well, you only learn Chinese for 2 months and you're already speaking to us like this. Like we'll crack jokes too,
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, Chinese is a very hard language to learn and there are different tones.
I was going to say it's a tonal language. So like the
Yes,
different
and so if
tones
you
mean
messed up
different.
the
Yeah.
tones, it could if you were trying to praise, like if I were trying to praise you for your hair, because I love your hair, I wish my hair looked like yours. But if I messed up the tones, I could possibly be cursing you and your ancestors, right?
Oh no!
Whoops.
So,
Don't do that.
But Chinese people, like Taiwanese people, were very forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
When foreigners were trying so hard to communicate with them in their own language, and they made the tonal mistakes and ended up cursing them instead of
Right,
praising them.
right.
People were forgiving. They were like, "Oh, yeah, I know what you mean."
All right, so I'm going to jump us now to meeting Cameron, who, so we're calling him Cameron. That's the name you gave him in your book. And so that's all I'll say about that. But just take me to the point where you meet him and then tell us what happens afterward.
Okay, let's talk about Cameron. So I was a college freshman in Taiwan. I went to this Catholic university in Taipei, and Cameron at the time was a missionary. He was from Texas, and he was called to serve in Taiwan, Taipei, and I met him on the street because I met him on the street because he needed help calling a taxi, and his Chinese wasn't good enough to call a taxi, so I happened to be right there. So weird. It just, I was the one who walked down the street, and he was the one who needed help on the street, so he asked me to help him, and so I'll help him, and that's how I met him. And
what did you think of him?
Oh, I thought he was really good looking. He looked like Bruce Willis. When Bruce Willis had hair, he looked like him. And so I thought, oh, he's so good looking. And I was 19 at the time. Yes. And 19-year-olds, okay. Also, growing up, I never had any self-confidence at all. And, never had any romantic relationship with any guys. And so I instantly had this crush on him, and I knew what my heart was doing. Like, you were instantly attracted to a person, right? And that was the very first time I had that feeling. And I thought, what is this? Why am I so nervous? Why is it that I can't look at him in his eyes? And when he talked to me, all that I didn't know. And how do you handle that kind of change inside of you, right? And so I had this intense crush on him. I wanted to get to know him. I wanted him to like me back, but it wasn't possible because missionaries couldn't. They were not allowed to have romantic relationships during their service. So, and I respected that. So I didn't do anything against the missionary rules, right? So I would just secretly watching him. I just watch him. It's very creepy. Now I think about it. I was so creepy. I was like stalking him, and I was trying to study, like trying to read his lips when he was talking to other people. I was trying to read his lips, trying to figure out what he was saying. That kind of creepy. That was me.
That's funny. You were spying on him.
Yeah.
So how was it that you two ended up getting together?
So he finished serving his mission and he went home back to Texas. I was still in Taiwan, and then I turned 21, and 21 was the age where girls could serve a mission for the church, and so I decided to serve a mission too. So I went on a mission, and he wrote to me. I wrote to him because before he returned home, we had exchanged our mailing addresses, right? So we became pen pals. So we communicated. We stayed in touch just through occasional letters. And then after my mission, he called me. He was in Texas. He called me and he said, "Oh, this semester is over, and I have a ticket to fly to Taiwan. I want to come and visit you." So I was really, really like, Laura, do you know how that feels? Like,
yes,
my crush is coming, right?
Yes.
So I was really excited, and so he came, and I went to pick him up at the airport, and he put an engagement ring on my finger, and it wasn't the traditional or typical kind of engagement. He did not propose at all. he just okay, in the airport, he showed up in the airport in the cargo shorts and a t-shirt. I dressed up for him, but he showed up like he was going fishing, okay? And so he had his cargo shorts, and he had pockets all over on the sides, and he just like searched over the pocket. Found it, and found the ring, and just put it on my finger, and we were now engaged, like that.
Wow.
Yeah, very romantic.
Very, very, very non-traditional there.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so then what happened?
Then what happened is I figured out this guy, he had things planned out on his own. In his own mind, he did not tell me, right? And so things will happen his way. Things will go his way. And I would just have to... So I'm back to this very traditional Chinese girl obeying what the men tell me what to do and doing what the men tell me to do. Like, for example, so we were engaged, and then I came to America, and we got married.
In Texas?
Yes, we were in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Texas. The day after I arrived in America, I still had this intense jet lag that I was trying to overcome, right? Because I just came from Taiwan. And he said, I have set up a doctor's appointment for you to see if you're healthy. But he never told me it was a doctor's appointment with an OBGYN, right? So I didn't know. So we went to the appointment, and the whole process, cause I grew up poor. I grew up with negligent parents. They never set up any OBGYN appointments for me, so I never seen an OBGYN. That was like, I didn't know they're that kind of doctor. Okay?
Yeah.
So I went to the appointment, and it was shocking. One shocking fact after another shocking fact, one after another. And then after the entire appointment, I found another shocking news that he told me about birth control pills. And he said...
He wanted you on them?
Yes, he wanted me to start taking pills. And I didn't know what pills meant because I'm a country girl. So I didn't know a lot of adult things. I'm like, huh? Mm-hmm. I thought pills, because first of all, English is a foreign language to me. I had to learn every single word in English. Right? So when I learned the word pills, I was in 7th grade. But pills, the definition of pills means medicine. That's how I learned it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you're sick, take a pill.
Yes.
And you'll feel better. You will recover. Yeah. That's what pill means to me. So when he told me that I had to start taking pills every day, I'm like, but I'm not sick. Why do I have to take pills every day? And then he said, that's so you won't get pregnant. And I'm like, what does that have to do with pregnant? Because pregnancy is not illness, right?
Yes.
So whatever came out of his mouth did not make sense to me. But he didn't bother explain to me all these cultural differences, or just maybe language differences, right? The differences in the two different languages, right? He said, just do what I tell you to do. And then with that sentence, I was immediately back to my assigned role as I was expected to be an obedient wife and an obedient woman who will submit to his will. And he gets to tell me what to do. I don't get to decide what I want to do with my own body or my own future. So that's how our relationship...
I'm sorry. I just wanted to interrupt for a second because I forgot to mention or ask you about one of the things that attracted you to the missionaries and to the church was the no one drinks, no one smokes, right? Like there was this kind of purity about the people there that felt really safe for you as well. Yes. And I'm sure also that he had this idea in his head that he was going to get this obedient Taiwanese girl. Right? Yes. Because that was the culture that he was bringing you to America from. Yes. Was one of obedience, where the women are obedient to the men.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you get married, and you move into a house, apartment. What's next?
So when we first got married, we didn't have any money, so we had to live in his parents' house. In the back of the house, there was this sunroom that they turned it into a bedroom. So we lived with his parents for a year. The first year of our marriage, we lived there, and then.
And how are they to you?
Excuse me?
How are they to you?
Oh, the parents? Okay, Laura, you know how people have different... We're not... how do you say it? We all have different dimensions in our personality, in our character. Sometimes we're shy. Sometimes we're outgoing. Sometimes we're sad. Sometimes we're excited. You know, that's just normal. And so it's very difficult to describe his parents with just one adjective or maybe a sentence, because his parents are so multi-dimensional to me. Yeah. Because when I first met them, I like his mother because I feel like she welcomed me, and I feel like she overlooked the differences that were between us. So I feel like, she embraced me as her future daughter-in-law. And I didn't feel that with his father. I feel like his father was very judgmental, because when I first met him, the first thing he asked was, what car does your dad drive? Right? And so that is important to him. And then he went on talking about wedding preparation, because Cameron and I were getting married, and his father wanted my family. Well, he didn't tell me, because my English was not good enough at the time to understand what he was trying to tell me. But he communicated with Cameron, and Cameron would tell me what his father wanted. And his father wanted my family, my father, to pay for the wedding. And that was like, what?
That's never happening.
Yeah, because in my culture, it was the opposite, right? Because in Chinese culture, the groom's side of the family will pay for everything.
Right. And then I forgot to ask you, how was your father with you getting married to Cameron?
Oh, by then, he already disowned me.
He had disowned you. Yeah.
He didn't communicate with me. When I came to America, the day I left the island of Taiwan, he wasn't there at the airport to say goodbye or give, I wish you well and I hope you have a nice life. No, nothing like that. So we didn't communicate with each other. He probably heard that I was getting married from my sister, because I stayed in touch with my sister. And so she would tell him, "Oh, Allison already went to America. She was going to marry this man," and So I think that's how he knew about my update. And so it's almost like back in the days when my mom had to come to me to pry updates about my dad, and my dad, if he wanted to know my updates, he had to go through my sister, like that.
Yes. So nobody talked directly to each other.
Right. That's
you all got. So tell me then about you and Cameron moving into your own place.
So we finally, after our first anniversary, we went to Taiwan to visit to take him to Taiwan to meet my family. And we received a lot of gift money from friends, from family, and from my grandfather. So with all the gift money, when we came back to America after the anniversary trip, we brought $15,000 gift money from Taiwan. And that's enough money for us to be able to move out of his parents' house to rent a student apartment. So we rented a student apartment close to the university campus, right? And that was where the whole light switch incident happened. So we lived there, and with the hope that we would start a new life without his father's influence, because his father was very controlling, and abusive in a way. And so I thought, at the time I was thinking, I don't like to live in his parents' house. And now we're in an apartment. We can start a new life without his father, without all the emotional influences.
But that interference, right?
Right. But then immediately his father called and asked Cameron to give him all of our gift money. And this is what till this day, I don't understand. His father was a millionaire. He was a very successful businessman. He had more than $15,000 in his bank account. Why would he need $15,000 from us?
Right.
Because
it sounds like he was kind of punishing you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I kept telling Cameron, no, your father is playing this mind game with us. He's trying to do this. He didn't need our money, but Cameron was like, no. We need to give him our money to show, like a peace offering. He saw it as a peace offering to mend their relationship. And I was thinking, well, why do you have to mend your broken relationship with your dad with my money?
Right.
Okay, that's the thing. Like, we were not on the same page because I was thinking it's my money, and it's your dad, Okay, go solve your own problem with your dad with your own means. What do you have to get my money to solve your problem? And so that is really a sign of us we're not on this. At the time, we were not a team anymore, because I'm like, this is my money.
Yeah. I don't blame you, first of all. And then secondly, you had talked about, I don't know if this was in the book or to me or both, but about the birth control pills, you had a really adverse reaction to them, right?
Yeah.
They caused depression and crying jags. You became homesick during that time that you were taking them. And then was he cheating on you?
In my definition, he did. Because
tell me.
Okay, so we got married, but before we got married, he had several other ex-girlfriends, right? And he grew up in this very small town. The size of the town is so small that in his high school graduating class, there were only 29 students. So that's how small the town is. And everybody knows everybody in that town.
Yeah. Right?
So the kids, the high school kids, the graduating class, they grew up together. They were childhood friends for the entire 18 years of their life. So they knew each other so well. And I was an outsider, right? So, Laura, I forgot the question.
Oh, I said, was he cheating on you? But,
okay.
But also, I just want to mention during this time that you were there, he's translating for you.
Yes.
When there is English being spoken, which is all the time, he translates for you. So he also speaks for you to people.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So he tells them either what you say or what he would think you would say or what he wants people to think you said.
Right.
And then he translates back to you what he wants you to hear.
Right. Exactly.
And you're completely reliant on him for information, right?
Yes.
So I know there was like some pornography going on, like that kind of thing. Not with you, but was there like a porn addiction? Was there something like that?
Yes. I believe he was addicted to pornography because I discover what he was doing at night. He will wake up in the middle of the night and he will go to the living room and watch porn shows every night. And I found that out and I was heartbroken. And also he would
You took it personally?
Yeah. And he would ask me to order porn videos. This is back in the early 90s, right? And so there were these, and I didn't know. Oh, first of all, when I was in Taiwan, oh my gosh, Laura, I did not even know what a condom was. I didn't know. And look at when I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a balloon. Anyway.
Yes. It can double as one. But...
Oh, you're so cute.
No, Allison, you're the cutest. I'm sorry.
No, you are the cutest. So you had no encounters with like the things that most American girls had encounters with by that point, right?
Right. So of course I had no experience with pornography. So after I married Cameron, I discovered one thing after another that he was so knowledgeable in the porn business. Like, he knew if you order a porn video, they will send it to you in this discreet envelope that they will not reveal the sender's identity. People will not find out. They had no way of finding out this video was from a porn store or whatever. You know, he knew that. And so
they're anonymous. Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, obviously he'd done this before. He knew. I mean, who else would tell him, right? Who would tell him this is what would happen? He must have done it. And so I was shocked that he was, so to me, I feel like that was a form of betrayal. That obviously
that was a betrayal. Yeah.
Right? He was betraying me emotionally. And okay, so the whole point of me bringing up about his small town childhood friends was that he stayed in contact with all these ex-girlfriends because they never moved away. They still live in that small town, and everybody still see each other, sometimes in the grocery store, at Walmart, you know, whatever. And so he would go fishing with these girls on the weekends. Like, he would be gone for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I wouldn't see him. I didn't know where he was, right? And so he would go fishing with this girl, and then the next week would go with this girl to a cabin, and then he would just live in his own life. And this is when I started to become I became an adult. I had this adult mentality, a married woman's mentality. When your husband spend weekends with other adult women, me as the wife, I'm thinking they're sleeping together.
Yeah. Right? That's what I would think. Okay, I mean, that's a betrayal for sure.
Yeah. And even though he will never come home to tell me that's what I did last week and that's what I'm going to do this weekend with Patty or with Mary or with Angela, he will never say that. Right. But
he wouldn't admit it.
Right.
But he was still continuing on.
Exactly.
So I wanted to talk about that because I just wanted to paint the picture for who it was that you were married to, and then you can tell us the story of the light switch now.
Wait, Lori? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You talking about Drake now?
No, the light switch. Coming in and turning on the light switch and nothing happens.
Right, okay. So Cameron and I fought all the time. After we moved to the student apartment, we continued to fight on a daily basis. And then I just got really sick and tired of this. I feel like I was back to Taiwan living my mother's life, you know, because she was fighting my dad all the time. And so I'm like, I had to find a way to end this. So I had a friend, a fellow Taiwanese student who was married. So I went to her apartment one night to ask her to give me advice. Like, how do I improve my marriage? Because, you know, I'm miserable and this and this. So I was gone for 2 hours in my friend's apartment, talking with her, learning how to improve my marriage. And after the 2-hour visit, I went back to my own apartment. It was around dinner time. And this was in November. So the sun went down early, right? So around 6:30, 7 p.m., it was already dark and cold. And I opened the apartment door. Of course, it was unlocked. I would think when I left the apartment, Cameron was in there. So there was no reason for him to lock the door on me. So the door was unlocked. I pushed the door open, but it was dark in the apartment. So I reached out to the wall where the light switch was, and I flipped the light switch on, and there was nothing happened. So I flipped it up and, you know, on and off, and the apartment was dark. There was no electricity. And I'm like, what's going on? So I went in. I had to feel my way into the apartment because it was so dark. But then I immediately figured out there was nothing in the apartment. It was empty. I would not walk into anything. There was nothing for me to be afraid that I would bump into, you know. So finally, I felt my way into our bedroom, and I felt the bed. There was a bed in there, and that was it. He was very kind to leave the bed behind because he moved out within 2 hours, right? He must have planned this I don't
Yeah.
I don't know how long he planned for this, but I found out he planned about this with his parents, because his parents were those people who came and helped him move out within 2 hours, cut off all the utilities, disconnect the phone, and took all the money in the bank and served divorce paper, all that within 2 hours.
Wow.
I'm like, oh my
Damn.
God.
Damn.
Such a nightmare. I don't know why I can laugh about it now.
Well,
I've been healed.
yeah. What is that rule for comedy? It's time plus tragedy equals comedy.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
so you come home and you flick the light switch on, nothing happens. You're feeling your way around in the dark, thinking he's there somewhere or that he's just gone out. You don't know what's happened. Then you realize you're alone in this place and that you're literally alone except for the single piece of furniture that he left, right? The bed.
Right.
And so you don't have very good English at this point. How would you say your English was? Could you have like could you order in a restaurant? Could you talk to, well, you go talk to the apartment manager, right?
Yes, I went.
Yeah,
and,
so tell me about that conversation.
yeah, so immediately after I discovered the apartment was empty and Cameron had moved out, I thought, oh, I had to go and talk to the manager, right? Mm-hmm. And so I went to the manager's office. I had never talked to her before because I didn't have to. Cameron would do all the talking. So when I went there, I had to first tell her my name. So I went in and I said, "Hi, I'm Allison." And immediately when I said my own name, I shocked myself because I did not know I could say my name the way Americans do. Right? Because my name has L and R in the same word, and L and R are very confusing for me, and I believe for a lot of the Asian people to learn how to distinguish L and R. But I said Allison. I didn't say Arizona or Ari, whatever,
Yeah.
Like now I can say my name correctly. I no longer know how to say it wrong. So I can't even show you how. Anyway, so I shocked myself. I thought, oh, I can do this. But then immediately reality hit. I wasn't that good in English because I had to use body language. Like I was trying to tell her my apartment is very cold, right? So I had to do this. I had to sign. I had to use body language to communicate. And I will say at the time my English was at 3-year-old's level.
Right. Yes. Wow. We are almost out of time, which is unbelievable. And I had much more to ask you about, but I just thought that piece of your story is so important. It's actually the opening of your book.
Yes.
Well, it's the first. Yeah, it's the way that you bring us into your story. And your entire story is incredible. It's a page turner, and it's just like that. Like everyone who's listening wants to know what happened next. You found yourself in this empty apartment. You don't speak any English, or you a 3-year-old's English. You're been disowned by your family, and you are in this strange place, this foreign land. What do you do next? So you're going to have to read the book to find out. Scott's going to talk to you tomorrow a little bit more about maybe what comes next. But can you just tell us where you are now in your life at this moment?
I am now in a very, very good place. In fact, I'm in a much better place than I would ever have asked for. I didn't know life could be this good. My husband is incredible. He is very accepting. It's very open-minded, and he did not much care about my past, like my humble background. Doesn't bother him because he focuses on the person I am and the relationship we're building together and the goal we have for our family. And so he's a great blessing to me. I believe that's what's You know, that's what Scott does for you, Laura, and I think that's what you do for Scott. That's how I can feel your relationship is also a very, very happy, a very blessed one. And I feel that because I identify, I can relate. I see the way you look at him and the way he looks at you. I know that's how I would look at my husband too. And
thank you for that.
Of course, you guys are like the model couple.
Oh.
And so that's where I am. I'm extremely grateful, very grateful to be where I am with my husband and my 3 sons. I have my first grandbaby coming next week.
What?
Wow. So excited.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, thank you. So my grandfather, he said the greatest blessing he can give me is to bless me to have my tribe increase, right? He said, may your tribe increase. That's my greatest blessing for you. And I see that as a manifestation of ultimate love. And it's happening that, you know, I have 3 sons, and now I will have a grandbaby coming. And then with that, life goes on and the circle of love continues, right? And ultimately, we all have that power of choice to choose to turn things around. Like even though generations before us, there might be abuse, there might be war, there might be just all kinds of horrible things before us, but we can choose to end the generational miseries and create a new life, the kind of life that we want. And so from us down, our descendants will not have to live the way that we suffer through. You know, it's the power of choice. We have it. And so I'm very grateful to have come to this understanding of choice.
Well, and I really appreciate the vantage point from which you wrote this beautiful book. Like, you were in this place where you could look back on your life. I don't hear a lot of regret in there. I really just hear you telling us the story of how you got to the place where you are, where there's so much abundance and there's so much love and there's so much bounty, right?
Yes.
And this is what you had to get through to get to that.
Yes.
And I think it's really beautiful, and it's so messed up that Cameron, you know, cleaned out your apartment and your bank account, and his parents helped him. And that is probably where most people's stories would have stopped. But it's really where yours starts,
right?
You know,
right?
And it takes you to this point. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on and just filling in all these, painting this beautiful picture of what makes you this really joyful, exuberant person. You're a delight.
You are a delight.
We've had so much fun with you.
I'm so glad we could do this in person because I get to see you.
Yeah.
Or not in person, but on video.
That so
right.
Awesome. Can I come stay with you one day? We'll stay up all night.
People can find you. I'm sorry, honey. Go ahead.
No, we're good. We're going to continue this.
The book again is called 99 Fire Hoops by Allison Hong Merrill. It's AllisonHongMerrill.com.
Yes.
And where are you on social media, Allison?
So I'm on Instagram. My handle is allison.hong.merrill.
Okay, great. Anywhere else?
I'm on Facebook, but I'm not really active.
Yeah.
So it's still, you know, Facebook.com.
Instagram's the best place.
Yeah, and then my name.
Or your website.
I'm going to hold down Facebook for you guys, all right?
Yeah, I know. You're good with Facebook, hon.
I am. I'm good with it.
Teach me your ways, Scott.
Yeah.
I know.
Thank
I'm showing
you
my
so
age
much.
here. Thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much. I'm Allison Hong Merrill. I'm the only one whose husband left in under 2 hours.